So today we have some incredible news. Sony just announced their brand new A7R Mark III, which is the replacement for the Sony A7R Mark II. Now this one boasts a 42 megapixel sensor with internal 4K recording. Now you might be thinking that's the same as the A7R Mark II. Well, not quite. There are some incredible improvements over the previous model that aren't really apparent when you first look at it. Now, a lot of these new features come with what I can only assume is new processing units within the camera that can crunch a lot more data. Now, I personally think that a lot of the new features and a lot of the new exciting stuff comes within the video realm on this camera. So obviously this camera shoots internal 4K video and it has Sony's S-Log picture profile. But this is something that a lot of the Sony cameras have had for, a few different iterations now. But that's not really where the exciting stuff comes into play. Now, this camera, the Sony A7R Mark III, takes in 5K resolution. So the actual sensor readout is 5K, and then it downsamples it to 4K footage once it is all processed in the camera. Now, the benefit of having this downsampled footage from 5K is that it'll help both increase sharpness and also get rid of a lot of the artifacts that you kind of get with some of the higher resolution cameras like Moray, which is a huge issue with both 4K footage and also just high resolution cameras in general. So by doing this, it'll help in both the sharpness front and that front as well. Now, this is a feature that has been seen on a few Sony cameras now, like the A6300, the A6500. They both have 6K sensor readout on their 4K video, and then the camera will actually downsample it to 4K, giving it a higher sharpness. And then to top that off, there are new features that really haven't been seen before in a mirrorless or even a DSLR type body, and that is HDR recording. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but any camera that can shoot log footage is actually capable of HDR recording already, because the log footage gives such a huge dynamic range boost to your footage that you're able to in your editing programs, designate it as HDR footage, color it as HDR, and you can even output it and display it on YouTube as HDR. So obviously, this is a really cool feature because now the Sony A7R III does that in camera. So you don't have to deal with kind of the monotonous process of actually turning your log footage into HDR, because it basically takes the footage that you're recording, it turns it into nice looking HDR that's almost good to use right out of the box. So those two features within the video portion of the A7R III are going to be incredibly huge, and I think it also does signal where camera technology is going to be moving in the near future, especially now that 4K video, on top of that, having the HDR 4K video is going to be something that is readily available for a lot of people to start putting out. So I think a lot of people are going to be getting this camera for the photo capabilities as opposed to just the video capabilities. So there are actually a lot of improvements that have been made on the photo portion of this camera. Now, the first thing I'm going to be talking about, which I personally think is the most important and kind of the coolest feature, is their new multi-shot technology. Now, with this new multi-shot technology, basically what it's doing is it's taking its 42 megapixel sensor and shifting it for 4 different shots, where it's taking one picture, shifting it 1 pixel, taking another picture, and it's stitching together in camera. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's creating a 100 megapixel image that you're able to, obviously edit in whatever editing program you have. But this is a huge leap in technology, because it has been available in a lot of other cameras. I think one of the Olympus cameras had it, and I think Hasselblad also had it on one of their cameras. But it's really cool because it's got a lot of great applications for it, with still life photography, architecture photography, and then also art reproduction, which I've done a little bit of art reproduction photos on my Sony A7R, and it wouldn't hurt to have, an additional 70 megapixels tacked onto it, because I promise you, this technology is going to increase the amount of detail you're seeing in all of your images by an incredible amount. And I'll put up a little sample of what they have going on right here. You can see so much more detail with this brand new A7R. Now, another really great improvement on the Sony A7R versus the A7R II is that it can shoot 10 frames a second at full resolution. So 10 frames a second at 42 megapixels compared to the last generation where it shot 5 frames a second. That's a huge improvement. I mean, that's, you know, kind of tiptoeing into sports and professional frame rates that you would expect from those type of cameras, because you know, there aren't really too many cameras out there that can shoot 10 frames a second, and now that this one can do it, that is a huge deal, especially when you take into account that this now has 2 times faster autofocus. Now, the A7R II already had great autofocus, but this one is supposedly 2 times faster, and not only 2 times faster, but it still has the same 399 focus points, and it has improved eye autofocus. Now, if you are unfamiliar with eye autofocus, it's a feature within the A7R, A7R II, A7R III, and a lot of the other cameras where it will actually recognize the eye on a person and keep the focus on that portion of the overall image. And that is a huge deal because especially when you're doing portraits, that's all you really want is to have focus on the eye, so now you don't have to worry about it. And with the improved eye autofocus, it's basically almost a flawless system. If there's an eye in the scene, it will capture it. That's not where all of the improvements end, because there are improvements to the build of the camera as well that are just as important as the video and photo capabilities. First, I'm going to be talking about the battery, because that is a huge issue that a lot of Sony cameras have been having for quite a while now. Now they, if you remember, the Sony A9 had a brand new battery, which I guess boasted a 2.2 times increase in battery capacity over the previous batteries they had, and this brand new A7R III will be using the A9 batteries. Now, obviously, increased battery capacity usually means increased battery life. I assume that this would be true in this case. However, keep in mind that there are a lot of new features that are being introduced on this camera that will make it be a little bit more of a battery hog. So I think that there will be an increase in battery life overall. Now, another one of the huge features of this camera is it has dual memory card slots. Now, this is something that Sony users have been asking for a while now, is dual memory card slots. And not only does it have dual memory card slots, but on one of the slots, it is a high speed write. So I think it's a UHS-2. I'm not too well read on a lot of the memory card stuff, but that is a huge deal for their cameras, because now obviously they can do the 10 frames a second at 42 megapixels. They can do 4K HDR recording. So I think that is a huge piece of bringing this camera into like the next generation of cameras. And then to top it off, the other big improvement is it finally has a thumb joystick on the back. So I personally was a little bit let down when this camera came out. I was expecting a new sensor, like a 60 megapixel, something like that, maybe some 4K 60 frames a second footage, but there were some nice surprises. The HDR footage is excellent. The new multi-shot technology I think was pretty expected from a lot of people, but I think that will be huge for a lot of people, a lot of photographers. And I'm excited to see what the new A7 III will be, the new A7S III. I think the A7S III is gonna be a particularly exciting camera when it comes out. I don't know any of the specs, but I think it will be exciting. So overall, I think that this is a great camera. Personally, I think that Sony was probably just trying to make a dig at Nikon's new D850, which is topping the DxO mark right now. So I think that that's kind of where Sony was kind of aiming, but I think that there is a lot of new technology in this camera that people should be excited about. And to top it off, if you don't want to buy this camera, obviously there are going to be people that want the A7R Mark III, and so they're going to be selling off all of their old gear to get it. So keep a lookout for the used market for the A7R Mark IIs, and also just check out the new market for the A7R Mark IIs, because I think they have had a price drop recently, so that is good news for you. So if you guys like this video, let me know down below, and also I would like to hear from you. Comment down below, Do you think that you're going to be upgrading to this camera, or do you think you're going to be staying with whatever camera you have right now? Or maybe you're going to be upgrading to the A7R Mark II. I sure know I would like to get an A7R Mark II. I don't have one yet, but I think that this is going to be great all around, not just for people looking to upgrade to the A7R Mark III. So once again, I want to thank you guys for watching the entire video, and I will see you on the next one.